This week, I am playing a mini round of my Timmies TBR game with my patrons. We have an entire week to make our way through the board and try and get to the end. Timmies, you just never know what it's gonna give. And also, with this round of Timmies TBR-thon, we are using the regular cards, but we also have a few extra cards based off places you could go to visit in Canada. So I'm hoping to get some of those extra cards as we go through the week as well. I had a really fun time researching places you could visit and making book prompts with them. So fingers crossed I get at least one of those while playing this game. But also hoping that somehow the ones that I got in my bigger round will fit at least some into this week, because I would like to also work on my bigger TBR while getting through the board with my patrons. So I am currently on launch sprints for Timmy's TBR-thon, and I have done my first roll. So let's check out what the board had in store for me. Roll number 1 is a 4, a coffee space, set in summer. So as you can see, I got a coffee space and the prompt of set in summer. This was an absolutely perfect roll for me because today we start the B&K Book Club book. After these sprints, I'm going to be on public sprints for B&K Book Club with Kelsey. So I need to start that book anyway. So it would be nice if it worked for the first prompt since I'm going to be reading it today anyway. So instead of starting 2 books, I only need to start 1. Luckily, our book is set in the summer, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I am going to start This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. This book is on a ton of TBRs. It's on my Timmy's TBR. It's a book club book. It's on my summer TBR. It is on a lot of TBRs. So reading this is perfect. Absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to start this though until tonight on sprints. So I am working on a couple of other things during the Patreon launch sprints today. I do have a couple of currently reading books that I haven't finished yet. So I'll work on those and wait and start these on public sprints tonight with Kelsey. So last night on B&K Sprints, I started This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune, and I flew through this book. I'm already 160 pages through, and that was just what I read on 4 hours of sprints. I read so quickly last night. The writing style and the story you can really just fall into, and I'm really enjoying my time with this story and these characters. So in this book, we follow Lucy and we follow 2 timelines. And that is one of the things I really enjoy about this book is the way Carly Fortune is weaving together those timelines. It's so seamless and so easy to follow. And it gives you just the right information from the past just when you need it to understand the context of the current situation. So again, we follow Lucy, and 5 years ago, she went to Prince Edward Island with her friend Bridget. However, they don't arrive at the same time. They're taking separate flights and Bridget's flight is delayed. So Lucy arrives early, a whole day early. Bridget grew up in Prince Edward Island and is going home to her family, home to stay. Her family will not be there, but her brother will be there while they are at the house. They're about 24 years old at this point, both Bridget and Lucy. Lucy arrives on Prince Edward Island, is trying to get a hold of the brother to be let into the house. Can't get a hold of anybody, so goes to a local restaurant to just kind of wait it out until she can get into the house. She meets a bartender at this restaurant and has a one-night stand with said bartender that is very hot, and she really has a lot of chemistry with him. The next morning, she starts to see things around the house of said bartender that makes her realize that he is actually the younger brother of her friend Bridget. Obviously, she doesn't think Bridget will handle this well, so they decide to just never talk about it again, never hook up again, go back to kind of their original plan of being friend and brother and not tell Bridget. Now we are currently in the current timeline, and Bridget is home in Prince Edward Island last minute, a week before her wedding. She doesn't tell anybody she's going there. She just gets a flight, goes, is late for her dress fitting when she tells Lucy, you need to come. I'm in Prince Edward Island. I need my best friend. The parents are again away because they are making their way to Toronto, which is where they're from, for the wedding. But the brother is in town. So again, now all 3 of them are in Prince Edward Island, but 5 years later. And we follow this story of what is going on with Bridget. Why is she here? What is going on with her wedding that she just flew across the country to avoid? and also how their interpersonal relationships from the last 5 years are weighing in on this moment. Lucy and Felix, who is the brother, clearly have a lot of past history, not just from 5 years ago. And we kind of follow how they've seen each other since that moment and what has happened in those moments and how it has all led us to this one. I've been to Prince Edward Island many a time, and the setting in this book is so vivid. And the way Carly Fortune writes Prince Edward Island almost feels like a character in this book. The setting is so rich and beautiful and done so well. And I think a lot of people, especially if you love Anne of Green Gables, are going to really appreciate that, because Anne of Green Gables, Prince Edward Island, is such a poignant setting for that book. And Carly Fortune did a great job emulating that in this book. The character work is great and the writing is great, and I really am invested in all the story and plot that's going on and the characters. My only critique of this book at this point would be I would love to have some perspectives from Felix. It's all from Lucy's, the entire book. There's no multiple POVs in here. And I think that would have just got me to understand the situation from Felix a bit better had I been seeing some of it from his perspective. But that is just a personal preference thing of enjoying romances that have dual POV. This one doesn't. That's okay. I'm not necessarily upset about it, but I would have thought it would have been nice to have. I'm going to dive back into this though, because I am really enjoying it, and I definitely want to see how all these timelines and things come together. I want to know more about their past. I want to know more about the present. I have some ideas of what's going on with Bridget. We'll see if I'm right, and we'll kind of find out what's going on. Stars. 5 stars. It had to be 5 stars. The whole time I kind of thought it might get there, especially during the second half. 5 stars for Lucy and Felix. This romance was so beautifully written. The way the timeline wove through for these two couples, the way they were there for each other. I love how it ended. I won't go into specifics. Carly Fortune really decided to go a different route with how this couple would live out their future, and I really enjoyed how it was done. This makes me want to pick up so many more of Carly Fortune's backlist because I just really loved the writing and also the character work in this book. Lucy and Felix, and Bridget and Felix, and Bridget and Lucy. This friendship amongst this romance was really special. Their families, everything about this book was so special. The setting, how it really did play a role in this book, again, was so special. I just keep using the word special because this book is special. We read this as part of the B&K Book Club book, so a lot of us have read it, and I think the lowest rating so far has been a 4.5. So take that and understand how well loved we have all loved this book. It is a true love story, and it's not perfect. It shows that sometimes loving someone is hard, but you make it work, or sometimes you need to figure stuff out to make it work. And I really appreciated that look into a romance book. 5 stars, and let's see what my next roll is for Timmies to see what I'm going to be reading next. Roll number 2 is another 4 with another coffee space. Calgary Stampede, a farmyard animal on the cover. So for my next prompt, I got Calgary Stampede, and that is a farmyard animal on the cover. Now for this one, I am doing a little bit of a stretch. I talked to the patrons and they agreed that this is technically a farmyard animal. Technically. Again, we're stretching it a bit. And a book on my bigger version of Timmies TBR has a dog on the cover. And all farms well, not all farms, but a lot of farms have dogs. Dogs are an integral part of farmyard life. Now, that being said, this is a small dog like a Bichon, which would not necessarily be the dog you think of when you think farming. But I need to read this book, and I'm going to just stretch it. My game, my rules, we're going to stretch. It's fine. So I'm going to be picking up a cozy mystery called To Fudge or Not to Fudge by Nancy Coco. I know very little about this book other than that it's a cozy, so obviously the person who makes fudge is probably going to solve a murder. But I'll chat with you as I go through this series. This is not the first one in the series, but it is the first one that I'm going to read. I don't even know how I got this. It somehow came into my possession. My mom might have given it to me. I'm not sure, but I'm going to read them out of order because realistically with cozies, you can do that. And if I'm interested in the series after reading this one, I can always go backwards. I made it to page 133 of To Fudge or Not to Fudge. It starts off with a bang. So Allie, who is our fudge maker, and she also owns a hotel that the fudge shop is in, is walking her dog Mal when she finds bones. The dog finds the bones inside the lilac bush. These bones are like chopped up. Like, this is a pretty gruesome crime for a cozy mystery. And then for the next about 80 pages, we don't discuss this crime ever again. Mal decides to enter a baking competition, which again, you would think that would interest me. You would think. Because I do love a baking competition. And it's a reality show competition, but the show is very highly scripted and it doesn't really show much of it on page. It's more talk, not show. And she gets roped into this by a past teacher that comes to the island that she knew when she was in culinary school. And the way he talks to her, no. He's older and she thinks of him as a mentor, kind of like a grandfather figure, but he talks to her in a very misogynistic way. And I did not appreciate that. Also, the part about this that you think I would like is that baking competition. I wish we were going to see it. The case did start to pick up after about the 100-page mark, but it's still really slow considering it's a cozy mystery, and that's the whole point. Thirdly, it's set on a really small town on an island. Again, a setting you'd think that I would love. But again, a lot of the characters surrounding Allie, I don't really love how they refer to each other and talk about each other. It just kind of makes me uncomfortable. This was written in the early 2010s, so potentially it's just really dated, and those things were acceptable at the time, and obviously we know better and do not talk about people that way now, so that might be why. So I think this had a lot of possibility to be a really good cozy mystery with having the baking show, having the mystery, having the small town, but it's just not hitting for me, and I'm very bored and then annoyed. I'm bored and annoyed. So I have decided to DNF this, if that's not a big shock at this point. I think that's kind of obvious by how I'm talking about it. So let's jump in to our next roll of Timmies.
Roll number 3 is a 5. Another coffee space. A book under 200 pages.
So for Timmies, we got another coffee space. If you have been keeping track, that is 3 coffee spaces in a row. Timmies just wants me to drink all the coffee, which is great because you know what? I could always use the coffee. We got a prompt of a book under 250 pages, so I am going to pick up the novella of Threadneedle that I read last month. It's called The Hedge Witch. I have this on my Kindle, so I am going to continue this. We decided as a Patreon to keep reading this series, so that's what I'm going to do. I just read the first book last month, so everything's really fresh in my mind, and it'll be interesting to see what we follow in this short novella. At least I'll know that this one will probably work better than To Fudge or Not to Fudge for me, just because I've already read the first book. So I already know I like the characters and the writing style and all that stuff. But I'm going to let you go and go start in on that, and I will check in with you with what I can say. Where it's a sequel to the original book, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to talk about, but I'll give you my overall vibes of this novella as I go through it. So today is the last day of Timmy's TBR-a-thon, and it is actually 11 p.m. I have not talked to you today, and I need to update you. So I have finished The Hedge Witch by Carly Thomas, and I gave this 3 stars. This book actually takes place prior to the events of the first book. I thought it took place in between, and it does follow Rowan, who was one of my favorite characters in the first book, so that's a plus. And I did love seeing Rowan, and I did love seeing, the magic, especially Rowan's type of magic. It was the one I liked the most in the first book. So I like seeing all of that. However, it really did feel like we were just copy and pasting the friendship story from the first book into a new one with a different cast of teenagers, but it was really the same thing, but also less mystery. Where the first one had a lot of witchy mysteries that I was interested in, this one didn't really have that as much, and therefore just focused on these teenage friendships, and that was the part I was less interested in the first book anyway. So because of all that, I do feel like this novella was not really necessary and definitely could be skipped if you're reading the series. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was unnecessary. With that though, I still have not made it to the end of the board. So let's jump in to my last roll.
And what could be our last roll with a 6 and a mood read. That wasn't too bad.
And thankfully, we have made it to my last roll and to my free space and mood read to finish out the board. Today is the last day. It's 11 p.m. I'm going to go with something very short and read Galatea by Madeline Miller. This book I wanted to read during Face Off. I didn't get to it. It's a 46-minute audiobook. So I'm going to be listening to this while I get ready for bed and kind of get in bed and just finish out the day. So I will update you on my thoughts on this tomorrow. I'm gonna love this. It's Madeline Miller. But it is going to be my last read for this vlog, and I need to get it in before I go to bed because that's when this readathon ends. So last night I did finish Galatea, and this was very short. It was very quick. I finished it in like 20 minutes. It was not very long. So I can't really talk much about it other than that it's based in Greek myth. This man carves a statue. She comes to life and we follow her story. Again, very short. But the hauntingness of it and how it was told was just so impactful. My heart just ached for this woman who has come from stone and has been thrust into this life that she did not ask for, that the gods apparently gave this man. It was so beautifully written, as I have come to expect from all Madeline Miller books. Perfection, 5 stars. If you love Greek mythology and if you liked Song of Achilles, and I'm assuming Circe, I still haven't read that one yet, I'm sure you will like this short story, and it's very quick to just binge really fast. Would be great for a readathon as like I did with this one. But that is the end of Timmy's TBR-a-thon for this vlog. I ended up reading 3 and a bit books with that DNF. Thank you so much for watching. If you've gotten this far in the video, want to chat with me but don't have anything to say, leave a coffee emoji because it's Timmy's. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.